And we are live. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We are live once again on the trusty old D spot. That is right. Yes, indeed. We got a banger for you today, folks. Guess who is playing tomorrow? It is Barça. It is Inter. Yes, indeed. Welcome to the D Spot channel. Here to break down this exhilarating, very exciting Barça Inter. And I am joined today with the man with the sharpest insights. The best ever insights, somebody might say. I am joined today by Italian football expert and journalist, as well as host of the Italian football podcast, none other than Nima Tavallaey Roodsari. I'm going to trust myself here that I am pronouncing the good man's last name correctly. He will be joining us shortly. I've decided to pop the trunk and start the stream already because I'm excited to get things going, keep things flowing. I'm just coming off of the back of recording this week's Churros with Kian Sobani. So make sure that you give us a watch and a follow over on Churros y Tácticas and watch the post-match reactions and the tears pour in from Kian Sobani. Good times for you, culés. Given that we are streaming on D-Spot here on all fronts, mind you, this is a multi-platform streaming. Ooh, we're getting fancy with it. I'm going to assume that everybody here, the majority, are culé, or at least know that I am. So good times to be a supporter of the Football Club Barcelona. Congratulations once more to Hansi Flick and the first team for winning the Copa del Rey over the weekend in emphatic form. Unforgettable fashion. It had to be a comeback. It had to be dramatic. We had to throw him a bone or two, and then we did it. We did it, baby, for a third, dare I say fourth consecutive time. I'm going to count the preseason friendly as well. Hansi Flick 4, Ancelotti 0. And it looks like that'll be it for Carleto. If we have to believe reports, then it looks like the good man is packing his bags, something that we can talk about with Nima as well. So, like I said, I'm hoping that this is just going to go seamless. This is going to go fluid, and that Nima will just appear magically on the left or the right of me. I have sent him the link. It's kind of the first time I'm doing this interview setup here via the good folks of Ecamm Live. So, hopefully that's going to work out. Nima had a little bit of a unforeseen emergency. So I said, no worries. If you can join, you can join. Take care of your dear family. I don't know, what is it? It just says it's an emergency. So take care of the emergency. If you can join, great. If not, maybe we can do a post-match. The good thing is that there's plenty to talk about. I mentioned the Barça first team, Copa champions. I gotta mention a big congrats to the Juvenil. There he is. Nima is dialing in, folks. Yes, it's working as planned. Let me pick it up. And Nima, I'm going to add you in over here. Nima.
Hey, man.
Can you hear me?
How are you? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. This is excellent. This is a bit of a first for me here, doing a interview on the old D-Spot channel, cranking up the old D-Spot once again. And I'm super grateful. I'm excited to have you here on this live stream, Nima, because, you and I, we got to know each other over the course of some spaces in what have been some very entertaining and fun Champions League spaces that we had the pleasure to do, along with Con and the guys. And look, you have become an absolute reference point of mine when it comes to not just Italian football. I would even go so far to say how to express in a very eloquent manner your vision, your thoughts, your tactical vision. But it goes beyond all that. It is a pleasure to hear you speak about football is what I'm trying to get
That
across. So
that is one of the nicest compliments I've ever received, and thank you very much, my friend. I really appreciate that, and I got to say, I've like you said, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you through these months and talking with you about football, and the way that we do it on these spaces as well. I really like it because it's not, we all support different teams and we all come from different backgrounds and whatnot, but it's always been fun and respectful, and above all, it's been a high intellectual level and high and honesty. It's been intellectual honesty when we're talking, and that's the most important thing, I feel.
that's not thanks to me. That's all thanks to you, the intellectual part. I'm just a radical fanatic. Blaugrana guy. We win again. We win. But
Dear.
yes, but listen, so right to get into the thick of things, actually, I figured I might as well start the stream to kind of experiment here as well with this new kind of interview format, live format. It's just a heads up, where this is a multi-platform stream as well, Nima. So I've given the viewers the introduction to yourself as an Italian football expert, host of the Italian Football Podcast, and I mean, is there anything you want to add to that before we start
Yeah, I
picking apart
mean,
this very exciting game that we have got tomorrow?
yeah. So basically, yeah, it's I also founded this. I also founded sempreinter.com, which is a news site in English covering Inter Milan since 2012, February 2012. We're the biggest in the world in English on that. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I cover Inter. I cover Italian football. Yeah, the Italian football podcast and Sempre Inter. That's what we do.
Okay, nice. So we have an Inter fan as well. It's not just a general Italian football lover here. It's somebody that has a genuine passion for Inter Milan, which is great because I want to get an honest answer. I'm sure they will get as let's say sober or nuanced of an answer, but maybe a mix of fan aspect in there as well. Because look, from everything that we've heard so far, obviously in Barça's case, we're fresh off the back of winning a very dramatic Copa del Rey against Real Madrid. First big trophy of the season. We're chasing a treble. La Liga is still very much I would say a possibility. I think is not doing justice. It's in our favor. We have a 4-point advantage over the second place team. We have the Clásico still to play in 2 weeks' time, and of course now this Champions League title, or excuse me, semifinal that is taking place tomorrow against an Inter side that all of a sudden, and I want to give you the context as well, sort of the momentum that Barça are in, and it's not all flowers and it's not as pretty as it seems, and we will get into that. But I think on the flip side, Inter were the team that I wanted the least since a long time. And I think a lot of culés will agree that it's rare that you hear Barça fans say, "Oh man, I really hope we're playing Bayern in the semis." I mean, this is Bayern handed us an 8-2, the most traumatic loss in my lifetime, dare I say. So I don't believe, despite the fact that Inter's momentum has clearly shifted. Serie A is what it is. I think it's you're down 3 now over Napoli, losing the Copa final against Milan on a 3 consecutive defeat run with Pavard. Is he coming? Is he out? Thuram seems to be coming back. Give me the lowdown because I still don't trust this Inter side. Is what I'm trying to say.
Look, I think that would. I mean, what you said is pretty much what I feel as well. I mean, I wasn't. You're never confident when you play Barcelona. Of course not. You'd be stupid to, because it's a fantastic team. It's a world class team, but it's a team that suits Inter rather well.
Yeah.
That is, if Inter are in form and aren't as exhausted as they are. And exhausted is no exaggeration. This is a team that it's not even that the gas is empty. There's not even fumes left. I mean, the last 3 games I've seen against Inter, it's as if the Bayern game literally took out the last drop of energy this team had. And then we saw them against Bologna, where there was nothing, and they conceded a goal at the death. They had a decent first half against Milan, ran out of gas completely and got smashed 3-0. And against Roma, it's kind of the same thing there. Roma scored the only goal of the game after 19 minutes when Inter's cohesive press completely fell apart and came apart at the wheels because there was no energy. Then they kind of pushed back a little bit better in the second half. But this is a team that is absolutely physically and mentally drained. There's nothing left. And so that's worrying. And then, of course, the injury situation. Pavard is definitely out. We know that.
Okay, yeah.
Thuram was training today. Dumfries is back. He's definitely going to start. The Zielinski's returned. So it's only essentially Pavard that is 100% out. But it's a Thuram that's not fully match fit. It's a Dumfries that's not fully match fit. There aren't many options. Zielinski, we don't know what we were getting from him. He hasn't been very good this season, period. So, Taremi's been very disappointing this season. Arnautovic played 90 minutes, and we know that he can't play more than once a week. So this is an Inter that is depleted, both in terms of men, personnel, and also energy-wise. So, yeah, I'm not at all confident. I think I even message you saying I think if Inter come. If the Inter of the last 3 games is the Inter I see, I mean, if the Inter against Bologna, Milan, and Roma turn up against Barcelona, Barcelona will rip Inter limb by limb, because there's no energy left. They can't, like, the brain wants to do things that the body just cannot physically do. That's the problem Inter have had these last 3 games. But having said that, the other side is, and that is, Inter have looked tired the entire season from match day 1.
Right.
They've looked completely exhausted. But no, they have. They've looked gassed, but they have turned up in the Champions League every single game except for Bayer Leverkusen and maybe I think it was Sparta Prague. I think they played. They went on autopilot in that game and rotated heavily and still won. But the main big games, every single time Inter have turned up for the big games, they have in the Champions League. And Lautaro Martínez, in his last 5 starts in the Champions League, has scored 7 of his 8 goals, and he's given his best performances. Yeah, and he's given his best performances in an Inter shirt.
So that's the thing. That's exactly the thing, Nima. So you hit the nail on the head, or at least what was going to be the cornerstone of my argument here is that Inter in the Champions League are a different beast, and these players turned it up in the Champions League. They're a formidable side in the Champions League. I think they're still, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, unbeaten at home in the last 15 matches in the competition. They advanced against Bayern Munich. That's people will try to make not a big deal out of that, but it's still a Bayern side that are the highest scoring team in Europe. They're doing phenomenal, obviously, in the Bundesliga. It's Bayern Munich, for crying out loud. Lautaro Martínez, that is on a very good streak, especially coming off of the back of these 2 legs against Bayern Munich. The defense, well, some of the best in Europe, if not in the Champions League, conceding just the 5 goals, 8 clean sheets, if my count is correct. So yes, fatigue plays a factor with all teams, and I'm saying that watching this Barça side as well. Exactly. So it's something that obviously affects all teams. And I just don't, you could say, well, as if the players wouldn't be motivated for a cup final, derby against Milan and turned it up. You just mentioned that they had a bunch of chances in the first half, right? That they didn't take, and therefore they reached the second half gassed, and then they were bulldozed by a Milan side. Okay, I didn't see the match, but I could see that happen. And then the Serie A, with all respect, I mean, the same can be said about many teams like Barça in La Liga, where we struggle against the mid-table, lower-table teams. It's a toss-up situation. If the legs are fatigued, in a Serie A competition might be one of those situations where the players just simply don't have that spark, that added motivating factor to give that little extra and get them over the hump, which they have shown they do have in the Champions League. And it's the semi-final, and it's against a side that the history between Inter and Barça. I just don't see this as a cakewalk, as big of a cakewalk. Here they're talking about it's 70-30% now, Barça are favorite. Excuse me, and that kind of talk scares me a lot, especially against a side like Inter.
Look, it's. I think that all of that is true. It's just that it's such an unknown with Inter, given what we've seen this week and a half, and the fact that they are so open about being exhausted, and it's not just that they're exhausted. I think the reason why Inter have looked exhausted all season is because they got the preseason wrong. I think I mean, I've said this pretty much all season, I think they got the preseason wrong. I feel safe now in March, in April, May to say they got the preseason preparation wrong. And today there's reports in Italy that the fitness coach might be sacked because they didn't prepare well, because Inter have looked exhausted and cooked this entire season. They didn't get it right. I mean, I understand that it's an unprecedented situation with a 10 and a half, 11-month long season with this FIFA Club World Cup, which both affects Inter and Barcelona. But I think Hansi Flick and the Barcelona staff were better prepared for it. And I think you have these moments where you go up and down in terms of fitness and fatigue and intensity, whilst Inter, honestly, this season, I've not seen Inter be able to put together 2 good consecutive matches with a high intensity. But now, when we've reached
not even against Bayern, then
the Bayern games, yeah, but there was games between that. I mean, like 2 consecutive games, like in the sense, like from
right. Okay,
Wednesday
I got you. Yeah.
yeah. Against Bayern, absolutely, they gave everything they had in those 2 ties.
Right.
But my point is that I've like if I compare Inter to last season, when from the minute the season started all the way to February, when they wrapped it up, essentially, they just mopped the floor with everyone. They were slightly unlucky in the Champions League. They played well in the Champions League, high intensity last season, but when they came to the Atletico game, a little fatigue had set in, a little nervousness had set in. And so and Atletico are a gritty and difficult side to play against, and they make life difficult for you. And Inter created chances in the first leg, but couldn't kill it because Thuram wasn't there; he was injured, and Arnautovic played. And Arnautovic isn't, I'm sorry, but if the answer to your question is Marco Arnautovic in the year of our Lord 2025, you're asking wrong questions.
So you said that, not me. I would not.
No, I said that, and I firmly believe that. So it is that, but it's still like when going into this, and I do feel it's a big unknown with Inter. And also I'm seeing these reports that Inzaghi's going to start with Dumfries on the right wing back, he's going to start with Bisek as a right centre back, and he's going to start Federico Di Marco. And that, the Federico Di Marco and Bisek thing scares the shit out of me, for lack of a better word, because Federico Di Marco is outstanding in terms of crossing. His left foot is one of the best in the world in terms of set pieces, crosses, shooting, all of that. But the man cannot defend. It's obvious. He just doesn't know how to defend, especially against players who are really good 1v1. He stands off. He backs off because he knows that if he pushes too high, he'll get beat. He'll get done, as happened in the first season he came to Inter. And so his solution to that was stand off. Well, he did that. He's done that. And what happens when he did that against Harry Kane in the Champions League? Well, Harry Kane scored because you can't give him that much time. If he does that against Lamine Yamal, well, he's going to get destroyed. And the same thing applies because when he plays, Bastoni and Mkhitaryan have to help out him more than they usually do if it's Carlos Augusto, because Carlos Augusto is much sounder defensively. And so they can focus more on their business. But if you got Di Marco there, and you're essentially thinking you're going to play without possession with Di Marco on the left, you're playing with 10 men because he can't help you out. He can help you out once he wins the ball, but he's not very press resistant, and you can win the ball easily off him. So for me, I don't understand that. When you got Carlos Augusto, who's been outstanding in the games against Bayern Munich. I mean, the first game away to Bayern was one of the best matches I've seen him to play in not just the season, but under the Inzaghi era. And the way they approached that game, that's how they should approach the Barcelona game. Okay, Pavard is injured. Well, Darmian as a right centre-back, defensively much more sounder than someone like Jan Bisek, who is young. He's going to make mistakes. He makes mistakes. He's been given chances, but he's defensively very, very weak, and question marks are there. When he gets tired, he makes these, he has these brain farts. And it's like, well, against Barcelona, you have to play the perfect game, as Mourinho said, famously against Barcelona. We were perfect against Barcelona, and that's why we still needed a miracle to go through. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you play Barcelona away, you have to be perfect. And okay, I understand this isn't that Barcelona side. That Barcelona side is, if not the greatest football side of all time, then certainly up there with the Sacchi's Milan, Trapattoni's Juve, Real Madrid is of the 50s. And it's one of the greatest football sides ever. But it's still a very good Barcelona side.
I mean, it's obviously offensively just steamrolling its competitors, scoring goals galore. In that regard, how do you see the setup for especially the first leg? I want to touch upon San Siro as well, because do you see Inzaghi playing contrasting formations, I mean, or tactical setups rather? Do you see this clash of styles kind of playing out where tomorrow Barça will be Inter will be sitting in a low block, counter-attacking, whereas maybe in the San Siro he'll open up and shift into maybe the 3-5-2 formation, a bit more daring, a bit more offensive-minded?
I think it depends on what happens tomorrow. I think
Yeah, of
Inter
course.
know that they're going to suffer tomorrow,
Mm.
and they know that, and they have to be prepared for that. I mean, when I saw the lineup with Bisek and Di Marco, I was thinking, well, I can't imagine him sitting deep with this lot because that's just inviting goals.
That's what you're
So
saying. Yeah,
then,
yeah.
yeah. So does that mean that he thinks he can go to Barcelona and dominate against them and press them high up the same way that Real Madrid did from the second half and onwards in the Copa del Rey?
Mm.
Okay, there's a lot of risk involved in that as well.
There is,
Um,
but if you're physically fit, I mean, Barca have shown to suffer. I would say there's definitely been a before and after since this last international break, and I
mm,
don't really want to call out individual players, but there are some players that have returned, not really themselves. They've still been key
yeah,
in certain moments of the game, but when it comes from a match to match basis, some of the players have certainly dipped off. Obviously, Barca are without Balde, they're without Lewandowski as well, so this is a side that is banged up, that is fatigued, and like you said, we saw it against Real Madrid in the Copa final. In that second half, in particular, there was a string of 20-30 minutes where Madrid were, certainly dominating Barca and looked in control of the match. I could go so far to say.
absolutely. I agree 100% with that analysis. And I think
Mhm.
the reason for that is I think Barcelona have weaknesses defensively, especially. I think
So
they're
Inzaghi's
not.
kind of fancying his chances. You're thinking?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But
Mm,
at the same time, like I get it. It's basically you're going gung ho, make or break. And I think
mm.
I don't know if I'd prefer a more careful approach. But then again, when you are this exhausted, when you are this fatigued, when you are this, at this level where you are, I don't really know what else, what can you do? You got to go for it. But then again, sitting in a low block, maybe losing 1-0 and taking the game to Barca, to San Siro with just a goals deficit, I prefer that than you losing 4-5-0 and the tie's over, essentially. I mean, do you know
It's
what I
like
mean? Like, it's
Dortmund, right? It's kind of
yeah,
like, yeah, they
yeah.
came here and thought, okay, we're gonna make it the two a two, right? The play
Yeah.
them.
Well,
How do you
that's
say the two a two?
suicide. If you do that,
It
to
could
me,
be
that's
suicide.
suicide. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
to me, that's suicide. But then again, I can't really blame him too much either because he doesn't feel. It depends on what he. He said today that he's not going to change his approach. Well, what does that even mean? Does that mean he's not going to change his approach to Inter in the Serie A, or is he not going to change his approach to Inter in the Champions League? Because it's been two different Inters.
Hmm.
It's been a much more careful, against Bayern, against Arsenal, against City, against all these teams. It's been a much more careful, controlled, tactically solid, more lower block Inter that's counter-attacked more and
Yep.
absorbed pressure. But that requires you to do all the hard work without possession. And I'm not entirely sure that Inter can do that for 90 minutes, given where they are physically. So does that mean they go toe to toe with Barcelona? Well, then that game
Toe
could
to
be over
toe.
at
Let's
half
see what it
time.
goes. Yeah.
You know what I
Or
mean?
or or they sneak in a goal and Inzaghi says, "That's it. Let's flip it around. Let's protect this. A goal or two. That's I don't know."
Yeah.
And then, because how do you see this play out over the course of two legs? Obviously, May 6th next week. It's at the Giuseppe Meazza, and the daunting prospect for Barça is there, of course, to go to a stadium where their unbeaten record in the Champions League is incredible. Um, how crucial is it for Barça to secure this first leg at the Montjuic? And do you think that Barça, with this added pressure and also fatigue coming from the cup win, the cup title win, that we could see maybe some added nerves? Like, how do you see this like playing out tomorrow?
No, I think Barca's going to go for it. For Barcelona, they have to win this. They know that they
Yeah.
need a cushion to going into San Siro. I mean, Barcelona are going to play the way Barcelona play. They're not going to change for anyone. That's not just how they. That's just not part of how Barcelona are, and that's just not how Hansi Flick is as a coach. He wasn't like that at Bayern Munich. He wasn't that at German. Like he's going to play his game.
Mm.
So I think Barcelona are going for it. I think what Inter have to do is to be very disciplined. I don't know what the game plan is. That's another thing. It's so difficult to going into this game to kind of predict what's going on because of Inter are such an unknown. it really is a question mark.
Has he given any hints in the pre-match press conference today?
No, I mean,
I
he
didn't
said
actually
that we're
check it.
not going to change our approach, but I mean, I don't know
Okay.
what that means. I mean,
Okay.
like,
Right.
do you mean the approach you've had in the Serie A or the approach you've had in the Champions League? Because they're
Gotcha.
very different.
Mm,
So, and
mm,
nobody asked him and pressed him on that, which I found a bit annoying.
mm.
But yeah, look, and with Thuram, he said it's very touch and go. He basically said, Pavard is not going to start. We know that he's not going to start. So yeah, I mean,
So,
we'll
but he
see.
did
It could,
travel then, eh? 'Cause I thought he was out indefinitely, but it sounds like you're saying that he will be on the bench.
Thuram.
No, Pavard.
No, Pavard is out. I
Yeah,
think
he's out.
as far as
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
out.
yeah.
He's not going to start.
Right, right.
He's not going to
He's
fit. He
not.
can't.
So I thought you said Pavard instead of you said Thuram.
No, I said Thuram. Yeah,
Sorry, I
Thuram.
understood Pavard for
Yeah,
some.
yeah,
Okay, 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 okay.
yeah, Thuram is touch and go.
Mm-hmm.
Thuram,
Yeah.
I think Thuram will start. It feels, having watched the training today and everything, I feel it's unless something happens throughout during the night where he reacts badly to today's training. Tomorrow morning when they do the initial tests, I think he starts. But I'd much rather see Carlos Augusto on left wing back, and I much rather see Darmian as a right centre back, because then you're playing low blocks and you can counter attack. You give yourself more chances, and it's not just Thuram, it's Denzel Dumfries. He looked really good against Roma. He looked, he'd been injured and he came back, and we know what he can do, and he'll cause Barça problems in attack for sure. So yeah, I mean, it's just difficult because we don't know what kind of Inter we're expecting to see, and that makes this really, really difficult to kind of going into it, see what's going on. But if we just go off of an Inter, what we've seen so far in the Champions League, I think it's going to be an Inter that's going to probably do rinse and repeat like against Bayern, essentially.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, the name Dumfries, obviously, the last time that we faced Inter, he was made the headlines for all the wrong reasons. I'm fearful because of that as well. I think had justice been done in those days, we might have seen a Barça qualify to the next round instead of having to be playing EuroLeague once again, or Europa League, I should say, not EuroLeague.
Yeah.
But those old battles, those old scars are maybe conversation for another time, because there is so much good history, juicy history between Inter and Barça that maybe sometimes kind of gets I don't know, forgotten. But I'll speak personally. I mean, the teams that I have bones to pick with, if I put them in order, it's definitely obviously Madrid, but then it's PSG. Chelsea, they've leapfrogged Chelsea for second place. It used to be Chelsea, but Inter cracks the top five, no doubt about it. Inter is up there
Yeah,
for sure.
they've had quite a lot of interesting battles
I
through the
saw
year.
you repost a drawing, this gif from Ronaldo, obviously with half Barça
Yeah.
and half an Inter shirt. I'm pretty sure that Ronaldo is going to be supporting Inter, because every time the guy gets the camera in front of his face and he's asked about Barça, he has unfortunately nothing good to say about his old club, where for
Yeah.
me he still played his best ever season. But then I am a biased radical culé, so what do I know? But listen, I wanted to ask you a little bit as well about circle back to this momentum. Obviously, Inter exiting from the Copa final in quite dramatic fashion, struggles now in the Serie A. Are they capable? How strong are they mentally? Is my question, Nima. Like, we've seen Barça exceed my expectations when it comes to physical, but also mental strength, making comebacks after comebacks, and even being down 4-2 against Atletico and then turning that tie around in less than 20 minutes. How strong are this Inter side mentally? Can they shift their focus to say, okay, that's it. All we got now is the Champions League. We got to do this, boys.
I don't have any doubts about their mental strength at
Mm.
all. My doubts is whether the body can do what the mind wants,
Right,
if
right.
there is enough energy left. That's the only concern. The mental aspect of this, I don't at all. We're talking about a group of players who have won everything in Italy many, many times over. We're talking about players that have won European championships, who have won the World Cup, who've won Copa America, who've been to finals, semi-finals of Champions League, Europa League. This is a very, very experienced team. This is a very, very experienced group of players. The mental element of this is not an issue, and it's a manager who's also grown whilst on the job. So I don't have a problem. I don't have any concerns about mental strength at all when it comes to the Champions League for Inter. None whatsoever. My concerns are strictly whether or not the body can do what the brain tells it to, whether or not they are there physically, if they can pull it off. That's pretty much it. As for and also that also kind of conditions what kind of approach Inzaghi is going to take. I think if he feels that they are exhausted, he'll say, F it. Let's just hope for the best and try to score a couple of goals early on. And then if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, then we, at least I tried. Or if there is enough energy in the tank, he feels, then try to repeat the Bayern game. Because I honestly think that if the Inter against Bayern Munich turn up against Barcelona will struggle.
Yeah.
Very much. Very much. Because Inter know how to shrink the space. I mean, the press was perfect. The balance of the team was perfect.
Away as well.
Yeah, the way they worked for each other. Yeah, the cohesive way that they played, the way that they were set up, balanced on the pitch, the way that everyone knew what everyone else was doing, the way they covered for one another. Like, it was outstanding. It was simply outstanding. And so it's, I mean, if they can reproduce that, I actually think Inter will go through. But my question is, I have doubts whether or not there's enough energy. Very, very bluntly, I don't, because the Inter that we've seen,
tank,
I mean, against Milan, I mean, the last 3 games I've seen Inter play, they look hungover. Like it's like, after you've had a really, really bad late night and you can barely like walk to the kitchen.
I wouldn't know nothing about that, Nima.
No, of course not. No, but you know what I mean? Like they literally, it's like they look dead, like literally so cooked, and it's been painful to watch because it's like you can't. That's why the crowd hasn't even been on them because they can. What are you going to do? You're going to boo players that are like they can't. There's nothing there. Like what it's like. What are you yelling at? They don't have anything in them. It's not one player. It's all of them.
If they were playing in the Bernabeu and wearing white shirts, their fans would boo them. Trust me, that's the specialty of Real Madrid. No, but I had to throw a little bit of dirt there. I know,
of course,
I have some.
You got to throw shade at Real Madrid. I get that. You're a cooler. You're a cooler. So
but Nima, listen, we've got about 15 minutes left before the first legs of the semifinals start kicking off. Arsenal, PSG. You're going to be on the spaces later, or what?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to see if I can catch this one. Definitely, obviously, we'll be there tomorrow. So I don't want to take a lot more time away from you. I think half an hour is good to give the viewers here a taste of the preview, what is to come. But one final question, Nima, I got to put you on the spot, obviously. How do you see this tie playing over 2 legs? Will it be Barça's attacking firepower that get them back to the first final in 2015? Or can Inter repeat the 2010 heroics? What do you think?
I hate predicting games like this because it's impossible. I really feel it's impossible, and it's difficult because I'm going back and forth, and I really don't know. I just feel Inter is such an unknown, but I can't shake off the feel. I mean, Barcelona are favorites. I wouldn't go 70-30. I think that's a bit exaggerated, like you said. Yeah, it's
mind you, this was the Italian journalist saying that.
Well, they
trying to jinx.
They do that. But listen, I think 55-45 in favor of Barcelona is where I'm tilting. But 55-60, something like that. But Barca are definitely favorites. And look, again, Barcelona have Lamine Yamal. Barcelona have Pedri. Barcelona have Rafinha. Barcelona have Ferran Torres. I mean, I want to end with that. I actually think that Lewandowski being injured is actually a good thing for Barcelona in this game, because Francesco Acerbi has pocketed him and has pocketed Haaland, has pocketed Osimhen. He's a master at man marking those kinds of strikers. Ferran Torres
Physically
is so
imposing strikers,
these
yes.
big, physical, strong prima punta number 9s who are goal machines. Francesco Acerbi has nullified Harry Kane several times, Lewandowski several times, Haaland several times, Osimhen several times. He has no problem. But Ferran Torres is a striker that will cause him problems because of his mobility. I'm wondering if Inzaghi shouldn't consider playing Stefan de Vrij if he's fit, because I think de Vrij's mobility and read of the game and quickness could maybe perhaps be more serviceable. So I'm not entirely sure that Lewandowski in this particular game, from a tactical perspective, I'm not sure that's a bad thing for Barca. If you know what I mean. Of course, as a qualitatively as a player goes, Lewandowski is one of the best number 9s in the world. Anyone understands that. But I'm talking about who he's going up against. He's going up against Acerbi. I would have been more comfortable if it was Lewandowski against Acerbi than I am with Ferran Torres against Acerbi.
Of course, you got a sample size there that he's a proven
and
defender.
Also because of the striker, the type of striker Lewandowski is.
Yeah.
And Ferran Torres is, look, I think he's so, there's a bunch of these Spanish attackers that I feel have always been so underrated because they're not superstars, but they're so damn skilled technically. They're so damn gifted in how they read the game, their movement, the way that they read and know when to drop, when to push, when to pass, when to receive the pass, when to read what pass and whatnot. Ferran Torres is one of those players. He's not world class like Lewandowski, Kane, etc., but he is damned good. If you have a backup of his quality, you're in a very, very good place.
I feel so as well. I feel that he doesn't get the recognition necessarily that he deserves. He's had a fantastic season. He definitely went through some trials and tribulations and hardship when he first arrived. But I actually compare him as a Fernando Torres. You'll forgive the they're tocayos, right? Namesake, but the way he moves on and off the ball, kind of, it's a different kind of striker. Yeah.
I mean, I think the Alvaro Morata kind of player.
Right,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
High intelligent, very tactically skilled, very, very technical, very intelligent, fantastic team player, work in a very specific system. And you saw against Real Madrid that goal. I mean, Lamine Yamal cutting in like that, where Real Madrid did not expect him to cut in, and then play that ball, just showed his quality and intelligence. And Ferran's run is just like that. That if he does that against Acerbi and Inter aren't switched on, then he's going to score. Like, there's no doubt about that. But I think if de Vrij is there, that particular play can't be played.
You're talking where he beats Courtois. I mean, Courtois obviously comes very far from his goal as well.
Yeah.
His decision making there was questionable, but the finish was certainly good.
And also one last thing. Yeah, listen, Inter have to be extremely sharp in their passing. I mean, that first goal, we spoke about it on the space after the game. I'm still in awe of that first goal from Pedri, not because of the finish, but because of that camera angle, which God bless the producers for showing that. You see Bellingham literally about to play a through ball to Vinny, I think, where he would be alone with the goalkeeper. And you can see Pedri sees this danger, but he's such a bloody intelligent player that he knows that he's not going to cut in too much, because if he does, Bellingham won't play that pass.
Yeah.
So he's tricking him. He's 3 steps ahead of everyone else. So he wants Bellingham to play that ball so that he can do that slide tackle, win the ball, play that beautiful ball to Lamine Yamal. And then you're in 6s and 7s against Barcelona, which Real Madrid were. And then, of course, the beautiful pass by Yamal, and then a fantastic goal. But to me, that is the thing. You cannot lose balls in transition. You can't do that against anyone. But when it comes to Barcelona, you are up against some of the most intelligent football players in the world. They've got some of the highest football IQs, and they're cunning. They're cunning as hell. Pedri, that to me is just shows how cunning and smart he is. He doesn't push too hard. He holds back his tackle, fooling Bellingham. And as soon as he plays that pass, he's like a viper. He chops. I mean, that to me, you got to applaud that. That to me is world class from start to finish. And Inter, if they do that, if they're going to try to beat Barcelona, they have to be quick in thought and execution. If they're not, Barcelona are too good. This Barcelona midfield with Pedri especially, they are too damn good. Too damn good. They will hurt you.
I love this. I love it. I love the way you put it. I'm going to download this and put it on as my ringtone. I absolutely love it, Nima. Thank you so much for this
Pleasure.
fantastic breakdown of that initial goal that quite
Always a
truly, I mean,
pleasure.
it got the whole neighborhood, everybody. We were just so enthralled in that moment as well. It was the start to a dream final, what eventually culminated into the 32nd Copa del Rey title. We'll see how this team will fare tomorrow. I don't doubt that both sides will be up for the occasion. I think that they will muster up the energy to make this a spectacle, a semifinal worthy, digno between two long-standing rivals that are Barça and Inter. Thank you so much, Nima, for joining me on D-Spot here on this channel. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll be talking to you to the spaces some more. So hopefully
Yeah, I
we
hope
can
so, and,
repeat
and I hope
this.
I'd be amiss if I didn't bring this up. And Con always says that you can't beat the allegations. You never turn up when Barcelona lose. so,
Yeah,
so
it's
let's
bullshit.
see. Let's
The funny thing is, Barca's only lost in Monaco against Monaco in the Champions League.
exactly.
I've
I
been
know.
there
I
every
know.
time. So it's
I know it's unfair. It's unfair. But let's see what happens tomorrow, because I think that you will turn up regardless. But I don't
absolutely.
think you'll. I don't think Barca will lose tomorrow. I really don't. But we'll see.
We'll see, Nima. Great talking to you, and we'll catch up
Always.
again soon. Thanks so
Ciao.
much.
Thanks.
Ciao.
Pleasure.
Thank you, guys. I think this is no, it was still broadcast.